no preaching, no administrative authority. Some of them may have been present at councils and conferences, but they were not a regular part of the council organization. Revelations are addressed to elders and high priests, but not to women as a body. A few women are mentioned in the scripture, Emma, of course, being one, Vienna Jackson another. They're present, receiving spiritual gifts. They're supporting their husband. They're engaged. Elizabeth Haven Barlow, whose letters I've just been reading, a woman who just wrote home to Connecticut just after or I guess it was Massachusetts, just after the Missouri persecutions. Her mind is right out there. It's like Joseph's mind. Always is aware of where the saints are, what's happening to them, what's happening to the leaders of the church. She had great scope. She wasn't just confined in a domestic sphere. She's thinking of where the leaders are, how are they getting along, and so on. So these women are involved and engaged, but they're not officially engaged and involved. Well, all of that changes rather suddenly in 1842, and I don't know exactly why. The women's movement is in gestation. Women are getting more and more active in reform. They're preaching. They're finding public roles for themselves. But these will really burst after the Seneca Falls Convention in 1848, slightly after Joseph Smith's time. But something in 1848, perhaps it's just sheer revelation, suddenly brings women right into the center, where before they'd been on the margins. They suddenly become central. Just think, in that one spring, or in that 1 year after 1843, the Relief Society is organized, not just an auxiliary to the church. It's not the Sunday school. It's not the mutual primary. It is a branch of the priesthood. Women aren't given the priesthood, but they're a branch of the priesthood. And Emma is given an administrative role as president, not on a parity with Joseph Smith, but sort of as a match to Joseph Smith's leadership of the priesthood. These are the years when the doctrine of eternal marriage and sealing comes out, and the partnership of men and women is made essential to exaltation. Women, therefore, and the relationship of men and women becomes theologically essential. It's not just a nice thing like being kind to your neighbors, that you're good to your wife. You have to be united with the wife for the men to make their way to the peaks of eternal hope. And then finally, women are given the endowment, made part of the Anointed Council in 1843, going beyond the Freemasons and including women in the highest ordinances. Women in all sorts of cultures were excluded from the Holy of Holies. Only men were brought there. But women are brought in to these highest realms of Mormon ritual life. So all of these things together made a huge difference. I would add, however, and importantly, that we must not pretend that these changes meet all the expectations of modern feminists. Quite the contrary. Women are more ensconced in the home and family than ever. They're not told to go out and seek a career just like any man. They're still under the authority of their husbands, and plural marriage, of course, in a way reduces their place in the family. So this is not a feminist paradise, but they were given a role at the very heart of Mormonism, Mormon ritual and Mormon theological life, that could become an anchor for their dignity and an undoubted certificate of their significance. I think in the Relief Society there's a potential for further administrative elaboration, which I don't think we've fully realized in the church even today, and may require more revelation and more expansion as the years go by. Well, what do I deduce from these experiences with three issues in the life and teachings of Joseph Smith? treasure-seeking, and his psychology in women. As the women's issue illustrates, I think we must remember we will not always be able to give satisfactory answers to our critics. We will never placate our critics completely, and we should not seek to do so. If we placate them completely, we are making our gospel, our history, conform to their sense of what life should be and what the past should be. In a sense, we're caving in if we become too pleasing to those around them. We have to state it as we see it and recognize that there will be differences from what our critics expect of us and of what actually happened to our people. We are different, we are strange, we're weird. It's just what Mormonism means. It's the religion of the weird. Here we are and we love it. And that's just something we have to live with. It's one of the insults of our religion that we have to bear. So that's my first comment. The second is the one that's obvious, and which I've said over and over again, that when we run into a problem, we should never evade it, we should never circumnavigate it, we should head right into the eye of the storm. We should, in my experience, stating the problem exactly is half the way towards solving it. There may or may not be a satisfactory answer, but stating the problem exactly brings the issue under control and paves the way for understanding of Joseph, trying to understand what he was up to. I won't claim that I understand everything that Joseph Smith did, and probably no one can. Exactly. We live in a different time. We have different experiences, but it helps to bring them to state the problem exactly. Finally, let me just say briefly in conclusion that I do not feel that we have to protect Joseph Smith. We have to understand him. And personally, I take great pleasure in his flaws and his weaknesses. They make him more appealing. He's not a smooth, glazed, ideal statue for us to examine. He was articulate, he was sharply sculpted, he was mobile and protean, he was a real minch, as they say in New York. So we shouldn't be troubled if Joseph Smith is not a perfect gentleman, if he's even offensive to us in some way. I think it's the nature of prophets that they're idiosyncratic, a little wild, a little odd even. He was not a gentle, self-effacing saint, which we have some come to believe is the ideal Christian. He was, if I may quote a phrase, a rough stone rolling. And frankly, I think it is wonderful that the Lord should work through people like him. Thanks.
Big stack of questions. So,
Great.
you may answer the ones you choose to answer. And
I told someone down here I prefer you throw tomatoes rather than hard questions.
tough ones.
How can come to morally accept or explain Joseph's proposing to and being sealed to married women as per Todd Compton? It's a fact. He was married to 10 women who were married to someone else. I don't know of anyone who has any answer or explanation of that that is founded in evidence. We have to create explanations for ourselves. Probably the best one is that he was very much concerned with bonding. He wanted to unite people. I concur heartily in everything Blake said earlier about blending people, unifying them in a bond of love is the essence of the gospel of Christ and of the Mormon gospel, that by working together we can do more than we can alone. And Joseph Smith was obsessed with sealing everybody. And this happened in his life, to sealing